Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. This is one of the final go shows that we're going to read, and it's an important one. The Kalpa of Decrease is a title that can easily mislead us into misunderstandings about, Kalpa is an ancient unit of time, unfathomable in terms of years in our modern understanding of time. The Kalpa of Decrease suggests that a falling apart of things getting worse and worse. And we just had a short fragment that we read about how that can make us feel pretty depressed, right? So I don't want that title to dissuade you, because what Nichiren is going to show here is not only the relative, he does a lot of talking about the proper placement of the teaching of the Lotus Sutra within the entire scholarship of Buddhism, right? But now this is a justification that I've alluded to in a few go shows, but Nichiren's really going to nail this down. So it starts with, the Kalpa of Decrease has its origins in the human heart. Now, I know when you hear a title like the Kalpa of Decrease, which suggests to me it's the time of things getting worse, for him to say it has its origins in the human heart, it's a little bit disturbing, right? It's like, are you blaming me? Is it my fault? Is it the fault of all us humans? Well, maybe, but that's not exactly what he means. He goes on, as the poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness gradually intensify, the lifespan of human beings gradually decreases, and their stature diminishes. Now, that's a very interesting statement. Remember, Nichiren said this in the 13th century. And I just read some reports on population across the world. And there are statistics kept all the time on the life expectancy of men and women. We've heard about this growing up over and over again, right? No matter what your age, you've heard it. It's something that cyclically gets reported upon. But something I read recently showed that where the United States or North America used to lead in life expectancy, it has, over the last decade or so, steadily fallen away. And there are other areas in the world where it rises. Now, I find that fascinating, especially in terms of what Nichiren is talking about here. That basically the samsaric attachment to greed, avarice, wanting more, the world of hunger, in other words, where desire is insatiable. It's not just that people want more. It's that they want more with no other reasoning than to have more. They're not satiating anything. They just get more. If that's not what drives capitalism, I don't know what is. Secondly, anger. Now, I've talked about this before. We're not talking about anger punching a hole in the wall. That's really rage, and that's the world of hell. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but when in Buddhism we talk about the pervasive anger in society, in human hearts, we're talking about very close relationship with greed, wanting to control, wanting to take advantage of, wanting to manipulate others to our will, to control, or to disseminate, or to discourage, or to annihilate others. Get out of my way as I go to get more. That is anger against life. That's a different sort of anger, isn't it? And then the third, the trifecta, foolishness, which I'm not afraid to call stupidity. Foolishness, you can say, might be the province of somebody who's just a clown, doesn't know any better. But really, this foolishness is purposeful. It's purposeful because it's wanton ignorance. I don't want to know. I want to operate on my own delusion. Screw your facts and knowledge and insight. I don't want it. I'm going to live stupid and you're going to deal with me being stupid. That kind of foolishness. And if we don't have plenty of examples of that in our current world, where have you been? Right? So, as the poisons, and they are poisons, because they do everything to take us away from the amazing potential we have of living this life free of suffering. Greed, anger, and foolishness pound suffering into us, manipulate us through our attachments, right? That being the situation, the lifespan of human beings gradually decreases and their stature diminishes. Well, we're seeing that in the numbers today of life expectancy. And if you look at the bigger picture, I don't know how you feel about climate change, but when it comes to actual climate change and the situation on this planet that we live on, altering weather patterns and livability to the point where human beings are just an irrelevant pest. The earth will go on long before, or long after, we no longer can survive on it. So, stature diminishes? Oh yeah. He goes on. Before the introduction of Buddhism in the lands of China and Japan, the non-Buddhist scriptures of the three sovereigns, the five emperors, the three sages, they were used to bring order to the hearts of the people and govern the world. And they were satisfactory. People found ways of creating value and being honorable to one another with these early teachings, right? When the hearts of the people gradually diminished in good and grew adept at evil, it became impossible to restrain profoundly evil offenses because of the wisdom of the non-Buddhist scriptures was shallow. It didn't work as a tool of governance anymore. Too many people were far too greedy and angry and manipulative and foolish that the old stories of the deities and the emperors and the ways of conduct and Confucianism and even Taoism, it wasn't intimidating to anyone. It wasn't in their hearts enough to dissuade them from terrible behavior. They knew the stories. They just scoffed at them. Yeah, so what? Right? Since the world was ungovernable with the non-Buddhist scriptures, the Buddhist scriptures were gradually introduced. And when they were used in governing, the world became tranquil. This was solely because the wisdom of Buddhism can fully elucidate the hearts of the people. Give them something to reach for, not just something to fear. What are called non-Buddhist writings today differ in spirit from the original non-Buddhist scriptures. Although when Buddhism was introduced, the non-Buddhist scriptures and the Buddhist scriptures vied with each other. In time, the non-Buddhist scriptures were defeated, and the ruler and the people no longer made use of them. But as adherents of the non-Buddhist scriptures became followers of the Buddhist scriptures, and confrontations came to an end, these adherents extracted the essence of the Buddhist scriptures, increased their wisdom, and incorporated it into the non-Buddhist scriptures. Foolish rulers thought that this was actually the wisdom of the non-Buddhist writings. So you can see this back and forth, right? But always about governance. How do we create in the hearts of people a desire to be better? But that's easily pushed aside as how do we convince the hearts of people to do what we tell them to do? Eek. That's authoritarianism. And it's a slippery slope. It's very easy to see the power in governance, a very samsaric problem, as opposed to self-governance. See, the root of politics should be in the individual, not the group. Not an individual leader, but an inspiring leader who leads those to inspire themselves to be better, rather than to just simply go along to go along. Moreover, when good wisdom gradually diminished and the evil wisdom surpassed it in people's hearts, the rulers tried to govern society with the wisdom of the Hinayana Sutras, which are also included among the Buddhist scriptures. But the world was not at peace. At that time, when the rulers spread the Mahayana Sutras and used them to govern, order was somewhat restored in the world. So he's racing through history now, okay? After that, when the wisdom of the Mahayana teachings was no longer adequate, the wisdom of the Sutra of the One Vehicle was introduced and used to govern the world, and for a brief while, the world was at peace. Which sutra is he talking about here? The One Vehicle, the Lotus Sutra, right? The present age is such that neither the non-Buddhist scriptures, the Hinayana Sutras, the Mahayana Sutras, nor the One Vehicle of the Lotus Sutra has any effect. It's not used to govern. Everybody reads the Lotus Sutra as a wonderful work of fiction, a historical document that a lot of silly people took to be a sacred document, right? It's just reading material. The reason is that the enormity of the greed, anger, and foolishness in people's hearts is equal to the superiority of the world-honored one of the great enlightenment in great good. To illustrate, in the keenness of the sense of smell, a dog is superior to a man. We all know this. Moreover, in picking up the scent of birds and beasts, its nose is not inferior to a great sage's supernatural powers of smell. This is something that Nietzsche or Shakyamuni talked about in the Avatamsaka Sutra, right? The owl's keenness of hearing, the kite's sharpness of eye. The kite, if you didn't know, is a type of hawk. The sparrow's lightness of tongue and the dragon's magnificence of body all surpass even the faculties of a worthy. Thus, the extremity of greed, anger, and foolishness in people's hearts in the impure world of the latter day or latter age makes it difficult for any worthy or sage to control, to govern. This is because, though the Buddha cured greed with the medicine of the meditation on the vileness of the body, healed anger with the meditation on compassion for all, and treated foolishness with the meditation on the 12-link chain of causation, the Nidana, teaching these doctrines now makes people worse and compounds their greed, anger, and foolishness. Witness the groups and sects of Nichiren that use the Lotus Sutra as a tool to make money and to influence people with their greed. Chant for a new car, they say. Chant for what? A better body, a better lover. They just totally sink their teeth into greed, anger, and foolishness. Because people are so wanton to follow anyone who tells them, you can have anything you want. Like a piper of sorts. How heinous that there are people and organizations that are willing to use the teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Myoho Renge-kyo, for the purpose of manipulating people by their nose, by their wants, just so they can make money and get more. They are the disease. I have no tolerance for these people anymore, nor did Nichiren at the time. For example, fire is extinguished by water, and evil is defeated by good, life-affirming, and resolute. In contrast, however, if water is poured on a fire that has emerged from water, it would be as if one had poured oil, producing an even greater conflagration. We've seen examples of this with the fires in the Gulf of Mexico from oil platforms, right? Now, in this latter evil age, great evil arises less from secular wrongdoing than in connection with the doctrines of the religious world. And that's not just Buddhism. How many wars are being fought over somebody's flavor of gods? It's unbelievable how out of control mankind has become with its beliefs and its greed. Oh, they're just in the Middle East for the oil, maybe, but the way they justify the war is religious. Look at what's happening with Israel and Palestine right now. It's disgusting. When people today who are unaware of this endeavor to cultivate roots of good, events that lead to the ruin of the world occur all the more. Although superficially it may seem to be an act of good to provide support to the monks of the Tendai, True Word, and other schools of the present age, in reality it is great evil, surpassing even the 5 cardinal sins and the 10 evil acts. In other words, even the provisional teachings before the Lotus Sutra of Buddhism, as laudable and as wonderful as those were at one time, today, in our situation today, they are absolutely not only powerless to bring about aspirations of Buddhahood in people's hearts, but they actually function against that. For this reason, in order that peace reign in the age, if a wise man existed in the world with wisdom like that of the world-honored one of great enlightenment, Shakyamuni Buddha, and if he met with a worthy ruler like King Senyo, I don't know of any worthy ruler today, and if together they devoted themselves to putting an end to these acts of good and committed the great evil of censuring, banishing, cutting off alms to, or even beheading those persons of the 8 schools who are thought to be men of wisdom, then the age may be pacified to some extent. In other words, if we had the wisdom today to put all of these would-be rulers who are constantly stoking the fires of greed, anger, and stupidity, and put them in their place, we might be able to turn the tide. This is explained in the first volume of the Lotus Sutra, where it says, quote, "The true aspect of all phenomena can only be understood and shared between Buddhas." In the phrase consistency from beginning to end, beginning indicates the root of evil and the root of good. and end indicates the outcome of evil and the outcome of good. One who is thoroughly awakened to the nature of good and evil from their roots to their branches and leaves is called a Buddha. Tendai stated, quote, life at each moment is endowed with the 10 worlds. Chang'an stated the Buddha intended these as his ultimate teachings. How could they ever be easy to understand? Miao Lo added that, quote, this principle is the ultimate revelation of his, Tendai's, final and supreme teaching. The Lotus Sutra states, quote, the doctrines that they preach will never be contrary to the true reality. And Tendai commented on this, saying that, quote, no worldly affairs of life or work are ever contrary to the true reality. A person of wisdom is not one who practices Buddhism apart from worldly affairs, but rather one who thoroughly understands the principles by which the world is governed. Let me read that again. A person of wisdom is not one who practices Buddhism apart from worldly affairs. You don't just come home from work and do all your nefarious, toting the line, authoritarianism, doing what you're told, or telling others to do as you tell them, wherever you sit on that spectrum, and then go, okay, I'm going to fix everything now and go do Gangyo. But you need to take physically in your heart and mind into your day your Gangyo, your practice, your Buddhist wisdom of the situation. And you need to treat everything from the perspective of creating Buddha-ness. You don't need to beat everyone over the head with Buddhism. You don't need to say Myoho Renge Kyo before you open your mouth at work. You need to behave Myoho Renge Kyo. You need to bring your Buddha-ness to work, to daily living, to your responsibilities, to your friendships. In that way, you become a Bodhisattva. You influence without even saying a word of Buddhism. That, my friends, is the challenge. Buddhism apart from worldly affairs, but rather one who thoroughly understands the principles by which the world is governed. What does that mean? That means that while you're in the midst of daily life, being influenced and influencing, get above it. Just get your nose above it and look. Look at the greed. Look at the anger. Look at the foolishness. You don't have to call it out for what it is, but you need to behave differently. You need to understand the motivations, and you need to become a reasonable person. That is so difficult today. To do it without being attacked or labeled is the difficulty, right? We can always point out the flaws in systems, but can we do it in a constructive way, in an amelioratory way? Can we mitigate? Can we be the one people end up going to for an opinion because they're just reacting and they don't know how to deal with it? Well, maybe this. Well, how about trying this? Not do this, do that. You're not an authoritarian. But how about we look at the situation like this? What would you think of this? Right? A soft leadership. A quiet voice of reason. That is Buddhism. Where are we time-wise? When the Yin dynasty became corrupt and the people were suffering, Dao Gung Huang appeared in the world and beheaded King Chao of the Yin, bringing an end to the people's misery. When the second emperor of Qin dynasty caused the people to taste bitterness, Cheng Yang appeared and restored order to the world, enabling them to know sweetness. These are all ancient stories, right? Though these men lived before the introduction of Buddhism, they helped the people as emissaries of the Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Always elevating the hearts and minds of people. The Lord of Teaching. And though the adherents of the non-Buddhist scriptures were unaware of it, the wisdom of such men contained at the heart the wisdom of Buddhism. Buddha-ness has always existed, and it may have been promulgated differently, and it may have been easier with less greed, anger, and foolishness in the world. But today, in this latter age, it is so pervasive that all of those old remedies and inspirations, they won't work. In fact, they're used to make things worse. If there were a ruler of outstanding wisdom in the world today, at the time of the great earthquake of the Shoka era, or at the time of the great comet of the Bunei era, he would have surely have heeded me, Nichiren. Or even if that had not happened, when strife broke out within the ruling clan in the 9th year of Bunei, 1272, or when the Mongols attacked in the 11th year of the same era, he would have welcomed me as King Wen of the Zhou dynasty welcomed Tai Kung Huang, or sought me out as King Gaoting of the Yin dynasty sought out Fu Yue from 7 ri away. Thus it is said that the sun and moon are not treasures to one who is sightless, and that a worthy man will be hated by a foolish ruler. Rather than go on at length, I will stop here. The heart of the Lotus Sutra is just as I have explained. You should not think of it otherwise. Great evil portends the arrival of great good. If all of Jambudvipa were to be thrown into chaos, there could be no doubt that this sutra would be widely propagated throughout Jambudvipa. Is that not what is occurring in our day today? I've decided to send Acharya Daishin to pay a visit to the grave of the late priest Rokuro. In the past, I have thought that if there were people in the Kanto region who had heard this teaching, I would go to their graves myself and recite the verse section of the lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra. If I were to go there under the present circumstances, however, the entire province would hear of it within a day, and it would probably cause uproar as far away as Kamakura. Even though they have steadfast resolve, wherever I go, people must fear the eyes of others. When I thought how much the late priest Rokuro might be longing to see me since I had not yet visited, it seemed to me that there was probably something I could do. Thus, to begin with, I have decided to send a disciple to recite the verse section of the lifespan chapter before his grave. I ask for your understanding on that point. With my deep respect, Nichiren. I don't know exactly when he wrote this or to whom, but Nichiren's making a great point as to what we're dealing with as contemporary Buddhist practitioners. The nature of our practice is incredibly individual in that it requires of us the vigilance of paying attention. Not even to speak of the resolve and the will, the volition we need to muster when we practice Gongyo, when we chant with this mandala. We must have the conviction that we can instantiate our Buddha nature, that we can live in our Buddha nature, and that it will, our maximal potential, our Buddha-ness, will guide us throughout the day. Believe me, as somebody who's practiced in excess of 40 years, I know the difficulty of this. But I can assure you with that same amount of time that it has changed me, that it has changed the world around me, which is even more profound than any change I might see in myself. But my living situation is incredibly bountiful. I'm not living in excesses of wealth, but I am living in excesses of security. A precious commodity for this frail life, of which I'm trying to suck the marrow from and enjoin you to do the same. The world and the picture of the world becomes more chaotic and frightening every day. But my conviction of the ability of us to overcome it, even though I don't know exactly how that works, my confidence about it is unassailable. That's why I continue to practice. That's why I continue to chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. There's a clarity to this practice that nothing else touches. I suppose this is what Nichiren talks about when he talks about the courage of this practice. Because in the face of all the ridiculousness in the world today, it can seem to somebody who doesn't know this practice as a very courageous act. But I'm telling you, this courage isn't what I feel. It's conviction that I feel. I don't need what looks like courage to others because I know. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for your support, your practice. The next Go Show, the Gift of Rice. Oof. Great one. I'll see you then. Thanks so much for participating, for your support, for your generosity, for practicing. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. See you soon. Hey, thank you for being here. Did you know there's a third way you can help support this channel? And it won't cost you a cent. Yep, if you are not able to be a patron on Patreon or use the PayPal me at .com at Sifu Sylvain because you don't have the financial fortune to help support this channel right now, you, as I say, always support this channel by watching, but you can also help us grow so that maybe one day we can get over 10,000 subscribers and YouTube will grace us with monetization. It's not a lot, but if you can make sure you're subscribed and share a video like a simple one, just go into the search criteria and type monk and you'll have a video that'll come up that's been up for years about what is a monk. You know, it's called monk, who, how, where, something like that. That might be a great introduction to somebody who doesn't understand what a monk is to begin with. It's a tool. Use this channel as a tool to help you with your Bodhisattva practice and share a video to somebody who you think, oh, I know somebody who'll benefit from watching this. And in that way, you can help us grow. And that's a really good way to help your practice along as well. So just wanted to drop that in on you in case that's something that you might find useful. Take care of yourself again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.